Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Heritage. And today we are going to South America, taking a look at the capital of Brazil, Brasilia, an example of prime architecture, of human genius, and what a planned city could effectively look like. Let's
Yes.
just dive right in.
Yeah. So Brasilia was created expressly to be the capital of the nation of Brazil from nothing. It was specifically chosen to be in the center of the country. And in 1956, the entire city was, construction began on the entire city, which was designed uh, from scratch to be the capital. It was, you know, it it's it's purely a design capital, it's purely urban planning. A lot of nations tend to have their capital be an existing powerful city or cultural center around which the government coalesces. For example, Paris in France. It's not planned even remotely.
But then in certain other places, such as Brazil, and actually in even more modern times, Egypt, the idea of moving a capital is the more attractive option, whether it be because of existing traffic concerns, like Cairo becomes a deadlock grid because of the amount of traffic. So they're building a whole new city that they can construct from scratch and lay out and put a bit more thought and planning into it, because a lot of times cities just grow on top of each other, and the design changes, the inspiration changes, the layout changes. I mean, a lot of cities on the eastern coast of the U.S. have smaller roads because they were built before cars existed.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of reasons to do this particular thing, and as you can see from some of the images, the architecture of Brasilia, uh, when they designed it, the people in charge went out of their way to be unique. Brasilia was designed to be the pinnacle of the modernist movement, which is a school of art and architecture and urban design that basically creates these there's very familiar looking pragmatic buildings with what you might call like over the top and grandiose architectural elements added into them, like say a giant bull sitting on top of this long platform here, which actually elevates itself perfectly over the road so that you don't lose out on space for allowing traffic.
Yeah, so Brazil decided to construct a new capital as partially, and I think predominantly, in my opinion, as a projection of power under then President Juscelino Kubitschek and his national modernization program. A lot of times these are passion projects that are usually there to try and cement legacies. Like, this is what my name is going to be. And it was heavily inspired by Le Corbusier, who really emphasized housing blocks.
Uh, yeah, the key thing too with the establishment of Brasilia was it would remove the capital, um, at least partially, from the competitive politicking of the various regions and sections of Brazil by putting it, one, in the physical center of the country, and two, away from the existing urban centers where there were already um, you know strong political factions lobbying on behalf of the local area. It sort of took those considerations out of the federal government, which can be very useful when you're trying to run an efficient national state. But yes,
They inadvertently created what is arguably one of the biggest modernist monuments in the world, because the whole city follows the modernist principles of design. So, much to Column's dismay,
I do.
modernism is memorialized.
Yeah, well, I don't dislike this memorialized. I just don't find it a very attractive or even at times pragmatic art form. It's just not my style. One of the things to note about this is because it is the pinnacle of modernism, and because it is this planned city and this major capital, and it is in fact still the capital of Brazil, all 60 years later. Um, it has one of the shortest turnarounds from inception to registry on the UNESCO World Heritage, as it was only as it was um, completed in 1960 and was in and received its inscription to the National Register in 1987. So only 27 years later, which is very impressive. A lot of things that end up on the register end up there because they have been around for hundreds or thousands of years, and this had been around. This had been around for only only a few decades before it made the register. Um,
Yeah, so going to the criterion that it's under, then, it's basically its artistic expression, the fact that it's on such a large urban scale, the expression of the principles that have basically been laid out in the city really are what are big to note here. And just it's a really interesting and ambitious development strategy. To build a city from scratch is such a monumental undertaking, and for it to follow all of these principles and to keep in this style, it's phenomenal. And the integrity. Talk about the integrity. Basically, the city is basically it still works as the capital, but it still is under the pressure of trying to be updated and developed upon, and with all the traffic that is going through there.
yes, and coming back around to your point with Cairo earlier about designing capitals, and existing cities often have inherited you inherit problems from them from before, both physically and politically. There are actually Brasilia is one of only a handful of um, cities that are in fact purpose-built capitals, which is what Brasilia is. In fact, it's Brazil is one of only four nations with a purpose-built capital. Uh, the other three being, of course, Washington D.C. of the United States.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. It was expressly founded to be the capital of the United States. Um, the city of Ottawa in Canada.
Really?
Yep, it was constructed to be the capital of Canada when Canada became you know not a colony. uh, and finally, uh, Canberra of Australia was built specifically to serve as the administrative head of Center for Australia.
I believe there's also an Asian country that has relocated their
Uh,
capital.
I believe you're thinking of Jakarta. Jakarta is currently has currently selected a site upon which to build a purpose-built capital.
Okay.
However, the city has not yet been constructed.
Right, because they're moving to
Uh,
the other island that has a
yeah,
lot more space.
yeah, they're moving towards the jungle and I think Borneo.
Yeah.
Um, so that Egypt and Jakarta will both join these ranks sometime in the near future, but right now it's one of only four examples of a purpose-built capital in the world, and
Interesting.
that also makes it very rare.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think that's actually probably a really good point for us to wrap up here. I think we covered quite a bit. I mean, there's some conservation laws, but not really too much for us to go into because the city's still fairly young. But the fact that it's a purpose built, it's a relocated city, and it's designed to the T. Like it is genuinely a masterpiece in modernist architecture. And whatever your opinion on modernist is, just to see the masterpiece, it's impressive, I
It's
think.
the pinnacle of what it is, and you know, I'm not going to let you sass me in the ending.
Thank you guys for
Not gonna-
watching, and we will see you in the next video.